welcome everyone here. Welcome back. This is the Quiet Riot Show. I'm Tim. Across the table from me is Tommy. And Tommy, I'll let you introduce our guest today.
So we have today Kevin Lepine, and I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, you're actually one of the first.
Well, I mean, I watched few videos. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, okay, let me see if somebody pronounces his name and whether he corrects him or not. So no, I did that, and but yeah, thank you for reaching out. So you reached out to us actually.
Yes.
And you've told me that you are just kind of searching for, I guess, Instagrams or looking for podcasts that are talking about men's mental health. So we really appreciate
because people just aren't talking about it, and that's what makes it so much harder. Is when you feel isolated, it's impossible to come out of those mental feelings.
So for our listeners, Kevin is a hypnotist in Las Vegas, which is awesome. I've only been there once, and I know there's tons and tons of shows that people can go see, and your show is one of them for the last 13 years, right? Am I correct?
13 years. We're the longest running hypnosis show, and I've been fortunate enough to win Best of Vegas a few times.
Nice.
And so I'm sure we're going to talk about this a lot, because one of the things that I know combats negative mental health is building a community. Mm-hmm. But God, I've got to tell you, the Vegas community is so awesome out here.
I can imagine.
So many performers have helped me, have helped me grow, helped me achieve what I want to do. It's fantastic. When were you out here?
Oh, this was 5 years ago now, because it was my father-in-law's 70th birthday, and that was his first time out there as well.
Oh, so, nice. The reason I ask is because every 5 to 10 years, it's a whole different town. Where'd you guys stay?
We stayed at the Caesar's Palace, and I totally did the... So did really Caesar live here?
Stupid.
Yeah, I know.
You asshole.
Yeah, exactly. And the lady there's like, we don't get that every time. I'm like, I know, I just had to do it. But I'm not going to lie.
One of my friends actually was Caesar there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when they first opened, they did have somebody playing the role of Caesar and Cleopatra.
That's
awesome.
Hilarious.
And yes, one of my friends was actually Caesar.
So when I first heard that you're a hypnotist, not gonna lie, my first thing that went through my mind, I'm like, this guy's gonna make us bark on our own show.
I promise I'm way more creative than that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Is that something that you can actually do via Zoom at all, or is it you have to be in person?
So sure. Here, I'll give you guys a great example. So. And first of all, since we'll be talking about hypnosis, the show Hypnosis Unleashed, I do it for comedy. I make sure that we're all having fun. But using it in your own life, it's a great way to kind of just redirect how your thoughts work. One of the best ways that I can explain hypnosis is, first of all, whatever you do, on the count of 3, do not think of an elephant. 1, 2, 3. You almost have no choice before that elephant just popped right in there.
Yeah.
And when we talk about hypnosis with mental health, one of the things that I hate is, hey, I'm feeling depressed. Oh, well, don't think about it. Oh, well, go to hell.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the right response to that.
Have you tried being happy?
It's retraining. Yeah. Have you ever just tried? No,
I never
tried anything like
thought
that.
Of that.
Yeah. Why, gee, that's great. You know what? I'm also just going to think the lotto numbers, too.
Yeah.
And your mind always works like water and electricity. It just wants the path of least resistance. And for a lot of us, sometimes that path of least resistance is that depression. Mm-hmm. Here's the perfect example of how it works. Fold your hands together, hold up your index fingers about a ½ inch apart. Now stare at your fingers. As you're staring at your fingers and you're listening to me, you're going to find your fingers want to move closer and closer. 3. Imagine they were like 2 magnets coming together. Oh, the more you giggle, the quicker it works. 2, like a rope, a string, pulling them closer, tighter. Yeah, feeling them moving together,
Son of a bitch.
Just like that. So here's what's happening in that moment. I'm getting into your brain so I can take over the world.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I
could use a break from my own brain, so that's great. You can take over for a bit.
Who couldn't? As you're staring at your fingers, as I'm giving you that suggestion that they're going to move together, here's one of the best ways to understand how your subconscious mind works. What it's saying is, I just want to do the easiest thing possible. You're focused. You're staring at your fingers. And what your subconscious is doing is going, oh, so if I move the fingers together, the idiot will shut up and I can get back to doing what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah.
But our subconscious moves like that a lot. It's why you don't always notice something happening, because your subconscious doesn't care about it, or why something is happening in your peripheral that you react to that you didn't even realize was important, because your subconscious goes, danger over there.
Yeah.
So, but also the subconscious is how we run things. And one of the hardest things with the mind and subconscious is we all talk shit about it ourselves to ourselves. And one of the hardest things to do is to retrain your brain to not put yourself down.
Mm-hmm. My wife talks about that a lot. She talks about how most of the thoughts you have in a day are the same thoughts you had the day before.
Yep.
And if those
and thus you do the same things.
If those are poisonous and negative thoughts, you're just perpetuating that every day. And she talks to me about retraining, just what you said, retraining your brain, retraining your pathways to operate differently or respond differently to different things.
And especially when we've made a pattern out of it, it's hard to change that pattern. It really is. And, a lot of people talk about changing it to positive self-talk up here. And I was just talking to somebody, and the topic came up of, faking being positive until you can be more positive to yourself. And they went, no, you're not faking it. You're borrowing it until you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're just going to borrow that positivity, and it's going to be something simple. When you make a mistake, instead of calling yourself stupid, you go, okay, I made a mistake. I'll learn from that. And it's just slowly changing that thought until you can stop hurting yourself just a little bit.
Yeah.
And help grow to a point where you can reach out more.
So relate that to, you've obviously had a very fucking interesting life to end up.
It's been
being a hypnotist in Las Vegas for 13 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Can I ask about that? Like, can you,
of course,
we're going to get into a lot of things, but like, can I ask about sort of how did that come to be and what made you want to do this? Is it a learned thing? Is it a gift? Is it a bit of both?
Oh, I wanted to be a lawyer, but my parents make me do this.
Yeah.
So, I just put out a book called Deep Into My Eyes about a lot of this. And the book actually starts at the worst moment of my life when I was 15 and ready to kill myself. Because I was I was a victim of bullying, of abuse, and a bunch of other stuff. And the book starts at that moment. It goes back into everything that led up into that moment. Then it goes into why I decided to do something differently. And I was able to change schools. And one of the first things that I learned was you have to build community. The cover of the book, I'm just going to zoom this in for a quick second.
Yeah, please do.
It's just, I just want to make sure this picture is visible because it sums up a lot. It's a picture of a bunch of fish all grouped together to chase a shark away.
Yeah. In the shape of a shark.
And And as soon as I saw that metaphor, I'm like, oh, I know what I want to write. Because it was finding community that helped me do everything that you're asking about. And it was funny because I grew up in Catholic schools. 10th grade, I go to a public school. All my friends became the punks, the misfits, and the burnouts. But there was also the artists and the performers. And oddly enough, I had a horrific stuttering problem. I couldn't talk interpersonally. And my friends allowed me to do this for about 6 months.
Okay.
They gave me the space to meter out my words. And I started learning that you can't mentally bully me. You can't attack me when I have a community that builds my self-worth. I had always felt comfortable on stage. I did, plays in high school. So when I was 16, I got picked up by an entertainment company to do costume characters at kids' birthday parties. So I was the purple dinosaur at your little brother's birthday.
Okay. And was that?
And I say that because legally they didn't have Barney. So we had, the purple dinosaur and we had karate turtles.
Was that did you grow up in Las Vegas or did you grow up?
No, that was in the Detroit area.
Oh, okay. Oh, grew
up all over
place.
Detroit. Yeah. And then costume characters took me to clowning because I wanted to make more money. And I mean, you have to understand, as funny as it sounds, so we got to go back in time. This was like 92. I'm 16 years old, and they gave me $40 to do an hour of playing with kids in a costume. That was more than I made in a week flipping pizzas at Little Caesars. Oh, hell yeah, this is it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I struck gold. Yeah. But, then I learned clowning because I wanted more gigs. Clowning got me into magic. The magic took off throughout the Detroit area. And then when I was 20, I started working with hypnotists. I got enrolled in a course for social workers because at the time, that was the only place that you could learn hypnosis. Mm-hmm. That's changed now thanks to the internet and everything. And then I had a 6-month offer when I was 25 to bring my show to New Orleans. And 6 months turned into 5 years. And the 5 years in New Orleans were probably 10 of the craziest years of my life.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's a great town.
That's one of the main places in the U.S. I've never been to yet.
It's awesome.
It's on the list.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
If you want the crazy nonstop party, it's there. If you want the history, it's there. If you want the amazing food, it's there. Yeah. If you want the high-end experience, it's there. If you want the cheap experience, anything you want it to be. The only downside to it is what one of my friends said so perfectly. Whatever you love and whatever you hate, New Orleans will gladly give you in abundance.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, from when I was in New Orleans, I started touring. Katrina sent me back to Detroit. Then I started doing gigs worldwide. And then about 13, 14 years ago, I had the opportunity to move to Vegas for about 6 months. And this town has been amazing to me. I've got to work with some of the greatest performers ever and who've just constantly. And one of the things that I've learned that's always filled me with joy, and I think this is true across the board in professions, people who you feel that are at the top of their game, like 85% of them know that there's more room at the top for people who want to be great. And if you sincerely ask, they'll sincerely give you answers to help you grow.
Like that's that community thing you're talking about. Like
yes, very much so.
And I think we, as outsiders from that world, we always feel like it's competitive, it's ruthless, and you get really big, and you get a lot of perceptions about famous people. And I've had few interactions with people that were in some form famous, but like they've always been super nice, and I've never had an issue. And I've heard opposite stories. We've all heard opposite stories. I'm sure you have that everywhere. There's shitty and good people everywhere, but to find community in that Las Vegas atmosphere, I think we don't, as outsiders, we don't think about that. We don't think about that existing.
But I think it's true in every field. Is people want to see people improve, but also okay. Less than 15% of the people that I've met in those scenarios have been jerks. But I mean, they're definitely out there.
Yeah, of course.
But it also depends on how you're being approached. For example, it's after my show, and I'm signing some stuff over at the merchandise counter. And a guy who had not been at the show just walks straight past everybody, up to me, puts a business card in my hand and says, "I'm a hypnotist. When the casino wants a real hypnotist, have them call me."
What the fuck is that?
Yeah. I've also had I had a hypnotist before my show once go up and down the rows of the theaters showing people what he does in his show.
Ugh.
But then I've had 100 for every one of those. I've had 100 hypnotists who have shown up, come and watch the show and went, "Oh, I do hypnosis. Oh, well, if you want, we'll do a Q&A as soon as I'm done here." And like, I'll gladly sit with people and do, just ask me anything, because that's how I learned. One of my favorite interactions with a celebrity that I've never forgotten, because I never got to meet this person, and I can't even say I met him on this day. I have a red-eye flight out of Atlanta. I had a late-night show the night before. So I am, and if you've ever been through the Atlanta airport,
oh my gosh,
that place is fun. And it's even more fun when you're exhausted and beaten up. and you're on that plane train trying to get to your gate. And is that Henry Winkler? Wait, that is Henry Winkler. And he just kind of nods to me. And I walk off the train. As I'm walking off the train by him, I just went, hey, thanks for all the great memories. You're a big part of my childhood. And Henry Winkler, who doesn't know me from anybody, looks at me and goes, hey. I got an A from the Fonz.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm having the greatest day of my life.
No kidding.
All of a sudden, the Atlanta airport's not so bad.
It's the best place ever.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me how many great celebrities that I've met who understand that just give somebody that little bit, and that's all. And I've met so many giving performers. Mm-hmm. It's been just a fantastic voyage on that.
So what took you from, obviously you had your troubles in your youth. What took you to the idea of wanting to be a writer?
So when I saw that picture, my entire story came into frame. Because I suddenly realized that the point wasn't the abuse. The point wasn't the bullying. The point was the building of the community that got me there, that got me past that. And when I realized that was the point, and I could talk about how to build communities, like for people who are being bullied in school, being able to find communities outside of your school, find a scout troop that isn't affiliated with your school at all. Find a dojo, a martial arts studio, a town or two over, so you can meet new people, new friends, and build and build and build. So at 15, I'm ready to kill myself. 16 years old now. I worked for a summer as a camp counselor. And when the clock ticked from 11:59 to midnight on my birthday, the bunk is singing happy birthday to me. A year ago, I wanted to die. Now I've got a community celebrating me. Holy shit. And by the time I was 20, I had my first mental breakdown due to depression. And thankfully, one of the things that I learned was when you have the right community, and friends will flip each other shit all the time.
As they should.
Yep.
Oh, God, yes. But your real friends are the ones who not only flip you shit, but for every time they flip you shit, they do things to also help build you up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I realized just where that depression was, I knew I was able to tell my friends. And the great thing is, so for depression, one thing that helps is exercise. And there were times that my friends would drag me for on walks or to the gym. And I don't mean they were like, hey, Kevin, you should go and do this. I mean, they would physically come to the house, pick my ass off the couch, and make it real clear. We're either going for a walk or going for a drag. It's all up to you.
Mm.
Yeah. No, and that's...
But having that.
So, yeah, that's incredible. And I mean, given the year it was, or years, that set of years, mm-hmm. As mental health in those years was not something anyone talked about. Or
no, not
almost,
at all.
Like none. Like you'd get called words you're not allowed to say anymore. But
yep.
So I can't, we're doing it now. It's 2023 and we're having this conversation, and we even started with it isn't talked about enough. We're not talking about enough.
No.
Well, go back 20 years.
And it wasn't talked about at all, or you were told, well, it's all in your head.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Now help me get it out.
That's what I'm fucking saying.
Yeah. It was the one line from Harry Potter that I loved. Is this real or is it happening in my head? Just because it's happening in your head, does that make it any less real?
That's your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that negative self-talk that we have going on in there. I mean, I'm working on a book about, how I was able to come above this stuff. Every time I make a typo, I'm bitching at myself and calling myself an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to change that sometimes.
I was gonna kind of bring that up. You guys mentioned it, that so 3-4 years ago when I had my breakdown, I was very comfortable talking about it because it is talked about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, in 1992?
93.
The 90s,
So
early
in the 90s,
2000s?
like, it wasn't talked about it. How did you feel, actually? Like, so you were comfortable telling that to your friends. What about family? Like, because obviously, I remember my dad and even my mom, like, they weren't just like, didn't talk about their feelings. They didn't really want to.
They just suck it
Nobody
up.
was really talking about this stuff, right? So I don't know if I would even feel comfortable telling my friends. So good on you that you did. But yeah, how was your family? And that something that you would believe that you should seek support in, right?
They were supportive of it. Not that they fully understood. And in hindsight, I know one of the reasons my mother didn't understand is now looking back on it and understanding everything I understand now, she had so much trauma and depression that she was told to keep bottled up.
Yeah.
She probably understood how you felt better than she would admit.
Yeah. She was glad I wasn't keeping it bottled up, but she also didn't understand how to do with the fact that it was out there in the open now. Yeah. And it's still weird, especially for guys. We are told over and over, suck it up, bottle it up, be tough, man up, and once you get to the other side of a breakdown, the funny thing is the other side of a breakdown is where you go, oh yeah, I had a breakdown and now I feel fine talking about it because you survived it.
Yeah.
And you don't want anyone else to have to go through it. But as you're building up to that breakdown, you look back and go, oh, you know what I should have done instead? But it's hard, man. It's hard to tell people about it because instinctively we feel weak, even though talking about it makes us stronger.
Yeah. And you have to talk about it regardless of how receptive the person hearing it is going to be to the information. Because the information's getting in one way or another.
Yes.
And so whether they're reacting or whether they're not reacting, you still have to give them, hold space for them and give them a window to hear that you give a shit genuinely and give them the opportunity to speak. And they might not, and they might never, or they might eventually. And I think to me, it's always been this idea of like, I'm willing to talk about it. And even if you don't want to receive it or aren't receiving it in the way that I think you could to be helpful, I will just continue to support that and to not push, but to make it known that I'm willing to be a part of that, part of someone's life or their conversation or their journey or whatever you want to call it.
And sometimes the great joy of that is, you're inviting other people who have similar to trauma to help each other, which is great. And something that you said in there, there's a lot of views nowadays on the quote unquote safe spaces. And whereas the world will probably never create a safe space for you, as soon as you go, hey, here's my situation, here's what I'm dealing with. Now, the person you tell that to, you have no control over how they're going to react to it. But from that moment on, it does give you the ability to go, hey, I told you what we're dealing with in this situation, and you still chose to go through it this way. Yeah. I'm not asking you to make me a safe space, but I'm telling you this is how I'm going to deal with the situation. Yeah. Now, is there a way we can deal with it together or not?
Yeah, and I think the safe space became a bit of a buzz. Yeah. It became a buzzword and a thing. Actually, South Park did a really fucking hilarious job of making fun of the safe space joke.
As always.
Yeah, as they always do.
I don't think I've seen that episode.
Oh, really? There's a song that Cartman sings. Anyways, I won't sing it, but I think that like you have to also figure out how to help the people in your community, and I'll use that word lots because it seems to it rang very true to me the second you said it. To live in an unsafe space, to still function and survive and thrive within an unsafe space.
It's
because the world
funny.
is not going to, like you said, the world is not going to create a safe space for you, and so we all live in the world.
My wife and I realized something very, very early on when my wife and I first got together. I realized really quickly she wasn't my friend. Because as we talked about, friends will tear each other down.
I have a funny joke about that.
What I realized was it's my job to build her up, just like she does for me.
Yep.
So I don't treat her like I treat some of my friends. And it's actually changed how I treat some of my friends now, because I realize maybe I don't need to say that mean thing right there. Now, I still say it more times than not, but at least the thought is in my head that maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's, but that community, when you have that community, the one thing I learned is you can't tear me down if I don't value your opinion. Mm. I don't care if you're talking shit about me.
Yeah.
Because I've got this community behind me and around me. And that's where I build my value from.
And did that start with you at coming out of your breakdown and your
yes.
suicidal thoughts, when you started to build your real community? Is that when that started for you? You started to realize that?
It did. Because, I had to do the scariest thing for a 15-year-old in a brand new school, stuttering problem. I came out of an all-boys Catholic school, and now there's girls around me too. And oh my God.
Yeah.
So like every part of my brain is exploding. And, I still have to try and meet people, and I still have to try to do all this. And that's when I found, like I said, my first community became the misfits, the burnouts, the punks.
Okay,
but they just accepted me.
Tommy and I both are former musicians. Yeah. We've played in bands. We've been in the music community. I've always felt like there is something within those communities, and maybe it's, you want to call it arts or performance or whatever you want to call it, but like there is something in those communities that I've found is sort of the juxtaposition to like the jock community. And I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up skateboarding and listening to punk rock, and I was like, well, fuck the jocks. But like there was less of this negative, and I'm not going to call it toxic, but this negative masculinity that existed in other areas of my life in music and things like that actually didn't really exist in the same way.
Yeah, like there was.
Did you find that the same for, like, if you're hanging out with the punks and the skids or whatever the fuck we want to call them?
Yep.
Did you find that was the same experience for you?
So let's talk about toxic masculinity for a second in the punk world. 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old me in the pit for the Ramones, the Bosstones, Guar, all of that stuff, right?
Oh, see, he grew up in the States. He got to see all those bands.
Yeah.
Every time somebody fell in the pit, 100 hands grabbed him and lifted him up.
Everything stops.
And that still happens
today. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at that as the real definition of where that masculinity can go to. We're all throwing each other around.
Yeah.
We're all in there in this big, rough area.
Cesspool of
look,
testosterone.
Somebody could be hurt.
Yeah.
Let's all protect them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But that's the truth of the punk community, of that hardcore community. The truth is we're all in this together.
Yeah. There's so much love in that community.
Oh, yeah. And I think one of the problems, if we look at that jock community, is two people are vying for the same spot. In the art community, you're vying to work together. In a band,
you touched on that earlier.
Looking for a collaboration.
Yeah. Well, and that rings true to you speaking about your experience in Vegas being a performer, and the community around you and the people, and like, if you really count the number of people involved in Vegas shows on a daily basis, it's actually not that big of a number.
It's weird. There's probably about 120 shows on any given day, which is why a lot of us don't look at each other's competition at all, because there's 120 shows. I'm not competing with Cirque. They're going to blow me out of the water.
Budgets, man, budgets.
Oh God, yeah. If Cirque filled their front two rows and nothing else, they would close inside of 2 days.
Yeah.
If I had the first 2 rows of a Cirque show, my show would be sold out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that.
Yeah.
It's like that big of a difference.
Yeah.
But to give you an idea, do you remember The Amazing Jonathan?
Yes.
Yes. Psycho Comedy Magician.
Okay.
Fantastic. We became very, very good friends. He was a groomsman in my wedding. I was a groomsman in his. When we first met, we were performing in the same venue. And I really wanted his opinion on my show, but there was no way he was going to come back on his day off to see me. But one night, so after the show at Hypnosis Unleashed, we sold recordings of that night's show. So you would have blackmail. I mean, a souvenir of your experience with your friends on stage.
Nice.
And Jonathan came by and grabbed one of them. And as he's driving home, he calls me and goes, "Look, do you just want me to tell you you're good? Because, oh my God, you're the best. I love you." No, I want you to be honest. 2 days later, he gives me a call. He says, "All right, come to the house tomorrow." He had 4 pages of notes, single-spaced, double-sided, time-coded.
Oh, wow.
Going minute by minute through my show over what I could do to improve. And that's what performers here in town do for each other.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You know, it's fantastic. Like one of the people who gave me some great notes to my show was Aurelian Smith, who you know better as Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, shit.
Jake came to the show, and he's been clean and sober now for a while. So the reason I say that Aurelian came is he came with his friends and family, and he was just being him. And we're talking about the show after, and he's going, "Oh yeah, you know what? You had this moment on stage, and as you're doing that, you're trying to get this from the audience, and so you're turning at this moment." And as he's talking about performing, he is shifting from Aurelian into Jake. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" Because like first thing my brain is doing is going, write down these notes. Second thing it's doing is going, "Oh my God, it's Jake." The third thing my brain is doing is going, is he having a flashback right now? Does he think I'm Steamboat? Am I about to hit the concrete?
I'd like to shift back a little bit in time and talk about your toughest times when you were 15 and what led to your suicide attempt.
So I was severely bullied. In school, it was nonstop. The worst was 9th grade. I was in an all-boys Catholic school. First day of freshman orientation, it was a new school as well. From the chemical lab, the kids put a liquid laxative in my drink. Oof. And threw shit at me. And when I was, doubled over in the toilet, beaten up in the showers. One day, there was a spirit day in school where, everybody was wearing whatever silly hat. One of my classmates took my hat, threw it off of my head down to the bleachers. When I went down to get it, I was literally spit on by my entire class.
So it was just constant bullying.
Constant, nonstop. And the administration knew this was happening.
Yeah, they didn't do anything about that in the 90s.
No,
in a Catholic school,
they didn't.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, tough it up. Oh, we'll do this.
Yeah.
Tough it up. I'm a scrawny 16-year-old kid with 40 people beating on me.
Yeah, like what do you...
Toughen what up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully, home had a lot of positivity to it. There was some negative in my house as well. My dad had been in AA my entire life. But my brother had a lot of mental issues. My dad being a recovering alcoholic, there was still some stuff there with him that he was working through. Mm-hmm. And, my mom had her own issues as well, but home at least was safe.
Yeah.
It was a Catholic school, and I had one of the priests also feeling me up.
No.
So I had a lot of that going on. And it built and it built and it built. And I kept isolating because I learned if I tell the teachers something's going on, and this was true from kindergarten all the way through, if I tell the teachers I'm being bullied, the teacher's going to tell the kids to stop bullying me, and then they're going to beat the shit out of me for getting a lecture.
Get extra.
It's just going to make it worse.
Yeah. Yep. So, you quickly learn not to do that. And it's funny too, because after a while, I started inviting my own ass beatings, because if I'm going to get my ass kicked anyway, I developed just the most acerbic tongue humanly possible. You were going to kick the shit out of me, but I was going to make you cry about something first. I got mean. And, you just you isolate and you isolate and you isolate. And the thing that stopped me from killing myself, and I talk about this in the book, is I prayed in a way I had never prayed before, and I did something I'd never done. I made a list. I made a list of everything I hated about myself, which was this really long list. Made a list of things I liked about myself, which was really short. And then I made a list of everything I wanted to be. And that was my prayer. I wanted to be that. And then I go back to what we were talking about earlier. I started borrowing from that list. I started borrowing from those things that I wanted to be until I could actually be them and own that. And the first step was desperately trying to find people that I could call friends.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned is one of the best ways to make friends. And as adults, this can be hard, but I've restarted my life a few times, moving to New Orleans, moving to Vegas, is thanks to the internet, there's communities that like the same thing you do. Also, unfortunately, because of the internet, there's communities that like things you do. But there's places to meet like-minded people. And one of the best ways to start meeting people and to build a community, ask people about themselves. If you're not sure what to say, ask people about them. And the one secret that I tell everybody is that anybody in that group that you're trying to meet all walked into that room for the first time once.
Yeah.
And they all remember what it feels like.
Today I listened to a podcast that was talking about a little bit of men's health as well, but they were also talking about salesmen, which was pretty much relating together that a good practice to do if you're a little bit shy and you want to become a salesman, you go into a new room where you don't know many people. Within the first 20, 30 seconds, find somebody you don't know, walk up to them and start talking. Because you know what? There's a high chance that you will find something in common with that person because you're in that room for the same reason. It might be, you might be there to meet people. You might be there to meet clients. You might be there because a friend brought you along, but you have one common goal somehow connecting. And so, if you find out that within a minute you can't really continue conversation, then just, you move on. Just, thank you very much for the information, and move on to the next person. And you kind of build up confidence a little bit, but you also, they mentioned it, you build a little community this way.
What brought you into this room? How long have you been in rooms like these? What are you looking to get out of this?
Yeah. Questions. Everybody, I've been in sales for a long time, sales-ish things. I employ salespeople, blah, blah, blah. Ask questions and genuinely ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't bullshit.
Yes.
Don't be fake. Ask genuine questions. If you have it in you to ask, if you don't have it in you to be genuine with a stranger or a random person outside of the fact that you may be there to do business with them, you're never going to work. It's never, ever going to work.
No.
And so
people want to do business with people they like.
Genuinely take an interest in that person enough to ask questions. People want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about their journey, their story, their whatever that is, whatever they want to talk about. You just have to ask them questions.
And sometimes they're so insecure they read a book about it.
Yeah, that's right. Just give people an opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that so many people they're so desperate to speak that they don't learn how to take the opportunity to let people speak and ask them questions.
And also, when you're hurting, when you come from a trauma environment, sometimes you're so desperate to be liked that you just try forcing yourself on people. Yeah. And if you do that opposite thing, if you just genuinely learn about somebody else, it's way more effective.
Well, and you'll find how to respond. You'll find some kind of common element between the two of you. You'll find, and not everyone's for everyone. I'm not saying that because that's not true either. But to find your community and your bond with people, the only way you find that out is by hearing about who those people are and them learning who you are.
Yeah.
Well, you do that through asking each other questions.
And sometimes people surprise you on the biggest level. And the more genuine you are, the more genuine they're going to respond to you. And sometimes, you find out some great stuff.
Yeah. First time I met this guy across the table from me, I didn't think we'd end up being co-hosts on a podcast and like some of the best friends I've ever had. Like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, among all the episodes we've recorded, there's one common theme, and that's getting therapy. We've talked about it lots.
Many times.
You had a really tough time making that first phone call. I had a tough time making that first phone call. I didn't even know if the person I was going to see was the right person, but you got to just try. Thank goodness we have a sponsor that makes it way easier now. BetterHelp has an online platform that allows you to fill out a questionnaire. They connect you with a therapist, and you get to communicate with them however you want. So whether that's text messaging, that's emails, that's through their app, that's video chats, you get all those options, and it makes it way less scary to be connected with someone. And if you're not into the person you talk to, they'll sign you another one right away. I've gotten assigned mine already, and I can't wait to use it. Like, by the time you hear this, I will have had my first session, and I'm super pumped to talk about it on the show.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, and like it's very easy to sign up. It took us maybe 5 minutes to sign up, and you answer just simple questions, and next thing you know, you got a message that you will be paired up with a therapist, and within the same day, we got the therapist already, and the name and a message from them, and we were able to communicate with them. So it's extremely easy. So please go to BetterHelp.com. Yeah, that's the thing. BetterHelp.com/Quiet Riot Show, and you get to also enjoy 10% off for your first month if you sign up using this link. So again, right here, I'm going to be doing it from here. Yeah, it's BetterHelp.
Am I screwing it up?
.com/Quiet Riot Show. Yeah, sign up today, and you're not going to regret it, because I'm already enjoying it. Just the fact that we connected with a therapist.
Me too, man.
Thank you to BetterHelp for supporting this podcast.
It is so important okay. It's funny, but this is a name dropping story of a guy whose name I don't remember.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
You dropped it and forgot to pick it up.
I was very fortunate to be invited to a really, really big party in LA. And I met this guy. And he was a great guy. But I couldn't get the word douchebag out of my head. But every second I spent around him, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
And my brain just kept screaming douchebag. And it wasn't until 2 days later I remembered, oh yeah, he was the douchebag brother from the movie Step Brothers.
Fucking Derek.
And because that was the first impression I had, was that movie.
He played the role well then.
But I couldn't stop thinking.
Douchebag.
That's funny.
Even though like I said, he was one of the nicest guys, but damn it.
Want to make bank, bro. I could quote Step Brothers for the next hour of the show. I won't. But so, I had an experience a while back that was very, very heavy for me. It was the first time in my life that I had made a decision to go see a therapist and do some of that. And my therapist talked about two things with me, actually, at the time. And I only did one, and I only did half of them. But he talked about meditating, and he talked about hypnosis.
Okay.
And so can you break that out for me as far as... I don't think people see hypnosis as a comedic event, but there is a huge part of the psychological community or psychological care community that hypnosis is a valid and very real thing. Can you sort of touch on both those and why?
Yes.
Maybe why you ended up one way or the other, or do you do both, or do you like?
While I learned it clinically, and I still occasionally do some clinical stuff for people, I always knew I was going to use my powers for evil instead of good.
I love it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Jedi, dark side. Nope. Not even a question. We're going right over here. They seem to have the better healthcare benefits. Let's go. So with hypnosis and meditation, so I'm going to break this down into the most bite-sized thing that I can, which is when you're meditating, you're kind of zoning out to everything. The value of that is our brain spins and spins and spins and spins. And when you learn to slow down the spinning, you really learn what thoughts are up there. When you're meditating, you have to get through your own negativity sometimes to get there. So sometimes that meditation also lets you confront something, but it allows you to kind of just zone your energy out to everything. Hypnosis is the same feeling. It's that same feeling. Like I don't want to use energy in the hippie term. It's that same feeling, but instead of zoning out to everything, you're laser focused on one idea. Mm-hmm. And one of the best things with hypnosis in my mind is behavioral interrupt. Like, for example, people talk about wanting to use hypnosis for weight loss. Well, I can't hypnotize you not to eat. It's your mind's not going to listen to that. But I can hypnotize you to eat slower. When you eat slower, you eat less. It takes 20 minutes from your first bite of food before your body knows you've eaten anything. It didn't take me 20 minutes to eat 3 rounds of Thanksgiving dinner. And dear God, lunches. Half the time you're eating lunch, you're in your car, you're running, you're eating so fast because you don't have time.
Yeah.
Second thing it can do is it can reduce cravings for junk food, replace it with cravings for things that you like that are better for you. Like if you told me I could live to be 100 by eating broccoli, nope, game over. But I'll eat raw carrots all day long. And what you're doing is with hypnosis is it's not don't think about carrots. I mean, it's not don't think about a Snickers bar. It's when you find yourself thinking about a Snickers bar, have a carrot instead. And it's making those changes.
Rewiring
Same with smoking. It's
pathways.
Yep, exactly. You're rewiring your
just going to bring up the smoking. There's that guy that's traveling around city to city, forget his name.
Oh, yeah.
But
there's a few of those guys.
But yeah, it's apparently it works, and I just like at one point I really wanted to quit smoking. I'm like, well, it costs $70. Like that's 3 packs of smokes up here in Canada. Yeah. So I should just go do it, and I never did. But yeah, I was just curious how effective it is.
So weirdly enough, nicotine's out of your system in 96 hours. The nicotine addiction is not hard. The lifestyle change is hard.
It's the physical
addiction. I don't have a problem with nicotine. I don't have a problem with nicotine. Physical. I have a problem with this.
Yep. So one of the first things when people ask me about it in Vegas, about how to quit smoking, first thing I tell them is every casino you walk into, buy a $1 chip from the blackjack table. Get about 12 or 20 chips. And that way you always have one in your pocket because you don't want to fidget with something pen-shaped. You want something that'll break the physical habit in a different way. So that's the first thing. Or go to the bank. Like in America, I would recommend like the $50 because they're big and round. I think the toonies are probably about
the same size.
That's yeah. Just something you can have in your hand to fidget with. And then the second thing is, or the third thing in this case, look at what you use cigarettes for. Take a smoke break at work. Get out of a bad conversation. Leave an area. You can use cigarettes as an out. And that out is really valuable. So how do you change that behavior of, I want to leave a situation, so I'm going to use a cigarette as an excuse?
I never thought of that.
So every time you go for a break from here, it's
because I'm sick of fucking being around you.
Sometimes.
Love it.
So you've done some clinical hypnosis.
Yes.
And then now you just do it to rip on people and make them embarrassed in front of their wives or husbands or boyfriends or girlfriends.
So which
sounds amazing, by the
way. Yeah. It is. But the reason that the show really took off was I had the idea that I wanted to do a show that said, I've got something really funny and interesting to share with you. And if you volunteer, I want to make you look like a superstar. And as soon as that became the point of the show, it took off.
Mm.
You know, I always try and wrap that positivity with it.
It was less about the degrading thing that we always attach to, and more about the positive experience aspect.
Because one of my mentors taught me, not all laughter is good laughter.
Mm.
People laugh because they're engaged and they want to stay engaged. People also laugh because they're uncomfortable and they want to get as far away as possible.
Yeah.
So why are they laughing right now? Are they laughing because they want to be part of this, or they want to get away from you? And that realization changed a lot for me.
Mm. Did it change how you viewed your audience and your show? And it must have changed everything.
Yep. Everything. Especially because what I started realizing is this. If I embarrass you, if you are one of my volunteers and I do something that puts you in an actually embarrassing situation, everybody feels embarrassed and uncomfortable. If, on the other hand, I put you in a funny situation where you look like a superstar for doing this really funny thing, everybody loves it.
Mm. I guess that's your responsibility.
It is. I really feel it is. I look back on the great comedians who could be really funny, or the great, comedy actors who can be really, really funny characters, not being the butt of a joke, but carrying a joke. And I went, that's what my volunteers should be. They should be carrying that joke, and everyone will love them for it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're heroes when they come off stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
because also the number one fear in the world is public speaking.
Yeah.
So everybody also goes, oh my God, I would be so terrified doing that. Oh my God, I would have been terrified, but if I'd have done it, I'd have looked that great.
Yeah. It changes people's mentality a bit. Mm-hmm. So what do you do for yourself now? Like Vegas, you have a show. I'm assuming it's almost every night.
5 nights a week. Yep. Tuesday through Saturday at the Four Queens, downtown Vegas.
Okay. So you're doing this show 5 nights a week. That's a big workload. Like there's no way that's just a stroll in and do your thing and stroll out. Like that's late nights. That's evenings. Do you do multiple shows a day, or are you just doing?
No. If I had that kind of ambition, I'd have been a doctor.
So what do you do for yourself in between your shows, in between when you get your 2 days off? What do you do to take care of you? Because you go on stage and I'm assuming to be successful, like anyone I've met, you put it all out there, and you put yourself out there, and you put all of yourself out there every single time you do it, because if you don't, you probably don't have a show to go to.
Yep.
So what do you do to build 100%. Yourself up and recharge your batteries for that? And I'm sure your wife's a part of that. And
she's a huge part of it. She's actually the other half of the show.
Oh, you guys you work together. Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Yes. And we work really, really well together. And then, I mean, the great thing is,
I could never work with my wife.
It's a very, very hard thing to do.
For sure.
And I don't mean it's hard. Once it works, it works. Mm. But making sure that you put it in place for it to work well can be very hard.
Yeah.
We are very, very fortunate that our personalities really, really allow us to do that. Emily's also in charge of PE here at the house. She makes us take walks. I've never been a fan of hiking. But every walk she goes on is worse than the walks I go on.
Hiking's a fucking
because yeah, I know. I hate it. I hate
so
walking.
Stupid. Where are we going?
But yeah, exactly.
Like, take me somewhere. I'll walk to somewhere.
But it's even harder for her because when she's walking, she has to listen to me bitch about walking. So
well, at least you realize that. That's good.
Oh God, yeah.
I love going on hikes in Europe because at the end of the hike, there's always a hut where they serve beer and alcohol and food.
Well, that's Europe. That's not here.
Or a castle.
I like that.
Or something. Yeah. Like put me in a city situation. I'll walk for hours.
Yeah, I'll walk forever in a big city.
Yes.
Or Vegas.
Oh God,
shit. I have walked more kilometers in Las Vegas than I've walked anywhere in my entire fucking life. Like no question.
And I don't even think about getting from the lobby to your hotel room.
Oh fuck. Yeah. No shit.
Carrot Top has got the best joke about that. About how the theme song for Las Vegas should be the I would walk 500 miles.
just to get from the Flamingo to the Caesars.
All right, we got to go from our room to the restaurant, and I would walk by. What do you mean you left your room key? And I would walk by.
You can't just cross the street. You got to go up the stairs.
You know what? I do love that city, though. I've had so much fun in that city so many times.
It is.
I enjoy it.
It is a great town. There is
so
much to see and do.
I like
so much great.
Fremont. I'm going to throw it in. Fremont's my favorite, but
100%.
It's a blast.
It's way more fun.
I drank there with my brother-in-law till 5 a.m. and just people watched, and it's just we had the best time.
Go for Halloween sometime now. That's a fucking trip. Right? I went twice for Halloween, and that's something.
And the bar across from us, Binion's.
Yep.
Opened up a bar over at Fremont Street with one of the rotating bars on it.
Oh,
so now it's a great way to see the mess without being in the mess.
That's awesome. No, it's a cool city. So going back to like, what do you do? So you hike, your wife forces you to hike. So that's fun.
Yep.
In its own way.
And we just relax. We support each other. She's actually working on another show right now. She's doing actually a lot of what we're talking about right now. She's doing in elementary schools. She's got
cool.
an elementary school assembly where she's talking about negative self-talk and teaching kids and adults about what that is and how to change it.
My daughter just had health day at her school. She's in grade 7. They had health day, and one of the main subjects was negative self-talk, self-image and self-talk. That's very interesting we're all the way up here in Winnipeg, and you're all the way down there in Vegas, and it's still this common. I love that. That's so good.
It's becoming so much more of a topic, and thankfully.
It's very important.
Well, it's rerouting those things. We all talk shit about ourselves all the time. What do I say when I do... You said it 6 times. What do I say when I do something stupid? Tim, you fucking idiot, or you moron.
Yep.
And it's not that I even mean it entirely, but that's what you're putting out there to yourself.
It's just the first thing you say.
Yeah.
And, if we go back a couple of generations, there is this whole belief from a couple generations ago, or even, one generation ago in some cases, where it's just, we'll tough it up, you'll be fine. But when you look at people who were raised in the 50s and 60s, they had a 2-parent home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a house, they had structure, they had all of these other things.
Less financial.
Now you come into our generation, you come into the 80s, you come into the 90s, you come into the latchkey generation, where you may come from a single parent home. You may come from a home where both parents are working full time, and you don't have that base to draw from. You don't always have those people in your life from the word go who have taught you anything of it.
Yeah. I always say so often that I'm so unbelievably fortunate to have grown up with a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Like, man, it was just the best. Looking back, every time I look back at it, I'm just like, oh man, I was so fortunate to have had that.
And it's funny because I look at my circle of friends now, and I look at how many of them chose not to have kids, including myself. But I also look at the ones who did choose to have kids, and the amount of dedication that they have put in to making sure that their kids have a different experience than we did.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's our job.
Yeah.
That's how I feel as a parent, is if I should give my kid a better life than my parents gave me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal. Is it can be fractionally better, but it should be better.
That's right.
Yep. And sometimes that's the hardest thing too. I always say that's the one thing as an adult that you have to realize is your mom and dad were just 2 people.
Right?
Yeah.
I look at how old I am now. I'm like, I thought my dad was going to die soon when I was 40.
That's right.
Or when he was turning 40, it was like, oh my God, you're old as shit.
Old, yeah.
And now I'm 40, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Dad, I'm sorry.
It's also that whole thing too of, you figure that by the time you were 40, you figured that 40-year-olds, you figured those adults knew everything, and they really knew how the world worked and what was going on.
Chance.
Yep.
Yeah, you didn't realize that they were just white knuckling it like the rest of us.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
I wanted to ask you a question. So, as you mentioned that, like in your 20s, you kind of hit a breakdown, and then
yes,
obviously we can't just naturally.
I had 2 very big breakdowns.
Yeah,
in my 20s.
So naturally, we can't just get cured of depression. So things, things happen in our lives that that will happen in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. What have you learned over the years because you're doing fantastic. You have a great show. You're a funny guy, and
thank you.
Obviously, you probably will have bad days as well. So what have you learned over the years that you use today? What tools or tricks or tips that you could maybe throw out there?
So my first breakdown at 20, I was starting my own business. I was, I'd given up on the idea of college to be a performer, and I was dating a person, and we were not great for each other. And I didn't know what I was doing, how I was going to do it. And it just little picks, and then the dam broke.
Yeah.
And I went to community mental health, and it was great. That's when, my first time really talking honestly with a therapist, and it really just opened me up to, okay, I need to talk to people about this. I need to be aware of this. I need to know what's going on. When I was 24, I was living with my girlfriend at the time. We got into a fight. I came home the next day and found her body. Her way of responding to the fight was to kill herself. Now, I didn't know about her mental history leading up to that. I wish I had. It would have saved me a lot of torment. And I basically went crazy for about 6 months. But it was being able to reach out and, reach out to a therapist, reach out to a doctor, make it clear, know what's going on, surround yourself with people who understand. And when you're going through those heavy traumas, there are a lot of people who will be glad to not shoulder the burden for you, but a trauma happening to you is a huge trauma. A huge trauma happening to somebody else is something you can be supportive of if you know what's going on. Because it's not huge, because it's not directly impacting you in the same way it's impacting this other person.
Yeah.
So it can be, it's a hard thing to learn to go, hey, this is happening. Hey, I'm having this problem. Hey, I need to deal with this. But it's what makes the difference. It's being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Just the dialogue alone is so massively important.
The dialogue alone will change things. Opening up and just saying, I'm feeling this way, takes the power away from it. I say it all the time. Negative mental health is self-fueling. Negative mental health wants to keep itself alive. And the number one way it keeps itself alive is it convinces you to isolate yourself.
No,
isolation is a killer.
That communication is very important. And I think whether you have 1 or 10 people that you can talk to, it doesn't matter. Like myself, I'm very open with you. I have a couple other friends that I can speak honestly about my issues, but I don't have any more because I know and they just won't take it maybe seriously, but that's okay because I can at least.
You only need one.
I can unload to one.
Start
person,
with one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's that can be a form of community. Just 2 people.
It says that time heals all wounds, which isn't true.
No.
Time and communication will heal the wounds, or at the very least, it will turn a mountain into a molehill.
Yeah.
It really will. I mean, it's that trauma you're going through right now. A few years from now, if you've talked about it with people, if you've, put together a team to help you with it, a couple of years from now, you'll realize that you made it through that trauma. But you don't really make it through alone.
I think that's a great spot to
absolutely
exit. Kevin, with your blessing, we'd love to have you on again sometime.
It would be my pleasure.
Your advice and your story and everything has just been so interesting to hear and so helpful for myself. Never mind everyone else who's going to listen to this. Can you do me a favor? Plug your book, plug your thing.
Yeah, where can we
take
find
a second to do that?
So the book is Deep Into My Eyes. and it's available on Amazon. We just that light's really helping me.
we'll do a
great
thing.
Glossy
with
cover, great to show on camera.
Tommy will do a thing with the edit.
The website for the book is deepintomyeyes.com, and then the show website is hypnosisunleashed.com.
Well, congratulations on everything you've overcome and everything you're accomplishing. I only know 1 hour and 10 minutes worth of it, but trust me, next time I'm in Las Vegas, which there always will be a next time, I will be looking you up, and I will be reaching out.
Let me know, please.
Yes.
I'd love to have you at the show.
We'll come sit in the front row.
Yeah.
Sounds perfect.
Part of what
I'll
we're...
be just a few feet in front of that.
Perfect. Part of what we want to do on this show is like when we have significant people come in and bare their souls and be vulnerable in that. And so we'd love to, like, 6 months from now, check in with you again on the show and just
gladly
see where you're at
love
and how you're doing
it.
again. I mean, we legitimately invest in each other when we do this, and we appreciate that you took the time to do that with us.
It'll be my pleasure. I look
just
forward
want
to
to
it.
say that I really, now I'm just realizing that I think I just sat here most of the time because I really enjoyed listening to you, and I was just taking everything in.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
Thank you again for joining us, and for the listeners, follow us on Instagram at Quiet Riot Show, and send us an email if you have a question. Yeah, thanks again for joining us, Kevin, and best of luck to you.
My pleasure, guys. Have a great one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All Quiet Riot Show episodes have been recorded and produced by SuverMedia. If you think you have an idea for a podcast but don't have the space or proper equipment, please visit SuverMedia.com for more information. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please hit the follow button and leave us a review if the platform you are listening on allows you to do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Quiet Riot Show, and follow us on the Instagram page at Quiet Riot Show. Please share this episode with others that may be interested in these topics. If you know anyone that would enjoy these topics, feel free to share our podcast with them. Also, let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch with us in the comments on our channel and social media, or send us an email to quietriotShow@gmail.com.